So let the world outside grow cold. In our quilted haven, love unfolds.
Hello everybody, happy Friday. I am so excited to hang out with you today. My desk looks like an airplane pilot cockpit. I have all this stuff around me. I'm hoping I can stay focused. Hi everybody, today we're doing raw edge applique, Mayflower 2. The pattern is down in the description box below. It's free through Sunday, so make sure you grab it now. So yeah, today I do this every once in a while, right? I have my ScannCut set up. I rearranged during last weekend's quilt retreat, right? Or was it before? Or during? I can't remember now. But I rearranged so that I could move the ScannCut so the camera would be close enough to pick it all up. And we are going to cut out the applique pieces with the ScannCut today. Hi everybody, it's so great to see you. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Before we get started, I just want to let you know, Patreon members, your free pattern comes out Sunday. It's a cookie jar quilt. It's a table topper or wall quilt, right? It's super cute. And y'all, you don't even need a video for this pattern because it's just raw edge applique fused onto a great big block with some borders around it. Super simple. Okay, so Sunday you'll go to the Patreon page, you can grab that pattern. Everybody else, y'all, I'll be releasing this pattern next week sometime in my Etsy shop, y'all. Hi everybody. Speaking of Etsy, this morning I listed two classes for embroidery in my Etsy shop. One of them is the basics class. Many of you have already taken it, right? Or you might not even need to take that class. You might know what all the toolbars are, what all the windows are, and a basic knowledge of embroidery, right? But if you are wanting to take a deep dive and start learning the embroidery software, that class might be something that that you might want to take. And I'm also doing a small group class on digitizing my ghost quilt label. I thought I had one here. I do not. What happened to it? I've lost it. But I'm going to show you step by step how to digitize a quilt label with a finished edge. So all you have to do is a little simple whip stitch right onto the back of your quilt. Hi everybody. It's so great to see you. Y'all, it is warm in here. This morning it was kind of nice. It was like just right. And now as the day has gone by, it's starting to get warm in here. Okay, so two new embroidery classes. Those are posted in my Etsy shop. If you go to my Etsy shop and you see them, there's still openings. If you go to my Etsy shop and you don't see those classes, they are full. But I think doing classes like once a week or every other week is probably something I'm going to continue to do because I think that they're really helpful. Jennifer says, what type of batting do you think would be best to use for a wall hanging if you want it to stay quilted? It would be used as a faux headboard look. If you really want the quilting to show up, double up on some batting. And I'm not opposed to using a polyester batting and let's say warm and natural doubled up to give it some loft. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for. I might be misunderstanding your question, but you want it to look really quilted, double up on your batting. Right now I am using Quilter's Dream Cotton batting, and that's what I'm using today. It is super duper thin. So double up on some batting if you're using something thin, and I'm not opposed to mixing and matching battings to give you some loft and some firmness. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, stiff. Use a polyester batting or a wool batting and double it up with another thinner batting. That's what I like to do. You want it stiff though. Stiff, stiff. Stiff, stiff. Let me think on that. There was something I used. Gosh, what was that? I don't know. Send me an email because I'll have time to go look through my drawer over there. And I think I still have some. And maybe it'll come back to my memory what exactly it was. It wasn't super, super stiff, but it was stiffer than like batting. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Let's come down to my desk for a second because I just want to show y'all something before we move over to the scan and cut. Speaking of digitizing, okay, so this is the cookie jar wall quilt. This pattern's coming out next week, y'all. Look how simple that is. Now I am going to do a video, but not a full-on tutorial because y'all know how to do this, or most of you do. It's just raw edge applique, right? But I'm going to make this for my daughter Bailey. And I'm going to say Mom, Dad on the lids, and their doggies' names on the big jar. Like that's their treat jar. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'll probably make a short little video about that. But yeah, keep your eyes out for that. Let me move that up here. And speaking about digitizing, I've been in like getting ready for studio tour mood. And coming up with projects that I can fill my studio up with for the tour, right? How dang cute is that? It is stitched on window screen and I hooped it in this wooden embroidery hoop. Isn't that super cute? Now this is my second stitch out, and if you get into digitizing, you know that when you digitize something, you probably should stitch it out a couple of times and make little tweaks, right? This was my second, and I don't think it's that bad. Right? But the chicken is filled in even more so you don't see quite through it like that. But isn't that so cute? Have you tried stitching on window screen yet? It's a lot of fun. This is gonna go in my studio tour. I'm building up a collection of stuff, y'all. And speaking of collection of stuff, last week we did this flower. Right? And I used Harlan's shirt. And I've decided all 4 flower blocks I'm going to join together. So I'm going to use Harlan's shirt in each one of them in some way or another, right? So here's the block for this week without the flower yet. That's Harlan's shirt as the background. But when we're done with all 4 blocks, I'm going to join them together with some kind of decorative stitch or a zigzag stitch like that. And I want to put loops on the top one, whichever block I just decide to be on the top, right? Let's say this is the top one. I will sew in little loops so that you can put a wooden spoon as the hanger for this little wall quilt. Won't that be super dang cute? So that's my plan for these. 7-layer bean dip. Now I'm hungry. Have you ever used polar fleece scraps as batting for mug rugs? Kathy asked that question. If you have, please let her know. I personally have not. But if you have, it would be great for her to get some feedback. Devi says, I love your screen rooster. Thank you so much. Isn't that so dang cute? It's a little sign, like for the kitchen or something. All right, so for today, to save us some time, I've already constructed the block that this flower is going to go on. And before I sewed it all together, I used my light pad. And with page, 3? 1, 2, 3. I used the placement guide with my light pad. And I put this fabric over top of it, and I made myself some registration marks so that I can place my applique right in the center of this, right? And so that's where we are, and we're gonna pick up by cutting out the applique. And last week we went right back to basics, right? I traced by hand the applique shapes for last week's block and cut them all out. And so this week we're going to use the SVGs and my ScannCut. Mimsy says, you can't be hungry. We are doing this late so you could eat. I did eat. But if you mention food, it's an unspoken rule. I automatically get hungry. See, I'll learn something new about me every day. All right, so we're going to go right to Canvas Workspace. Okay, this pattern does come with 2 different SVG files, one for ScannCuts and one for Cricut machines. So when you go to the link and you click on it, you'll see a PDF and 2 different SVGs. They both work in different DPI resolutions. So if you have a Cricut, make sure you're saving the Cricut one. And if you have a ScannCut, make sure you're saving the ScannCut one. If you have a silhouette, I don't know which one you need. Grab them both. Heather says, if you go on video, you automatically get hungry. One thing is for sure, if I zoom, I just automatically, I have food noise that says you must be eating something. I don't know why. I think it's something mental. Okay, y'all. Speaking of quilt retreat, y'all, did you see my new chair? See it behind me? There's no squeaking noise. I got a new chair. I ordered it at like 2 o'clock in the morning during the quilt retreat. And it came in this week. All right, so what I'm going to do now is share my screen because I have not even sent the SVG over to my ScannCut. Hopefully my internet is strong enough to do that while I'm streaming. That'll be a first, right? And we're going to start from the very get-go. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. It's going to look a little crazy for a minute. But I'm going to open up Canvas Brother Workspace. Okay. Y'all get a little sneak peek of what everything looks like behind the scenes. And I'm just going to pause for a second because I want to make sure that my screen is showing what I want it to show. Because it's been a little minute since I did this. Okay. It is warm in here. I think I'm having a hot flash. Okay, yep, it's showing what I needed to show. So this is Canvas Workspace, right? And actually, I've already brought in the SVG, but let's just delete that and go all the way back to the very beginning. So Canvas Workspace, when you open it up, has the mat on the screen, right? And this is really good because many of you might be contemplating getting a cutting machine like a ScannCut, right? Some of y'all have machines and you haven't taken them out of the box. And so every once in a while I like to do a video like this just to encourage you and maybe give you something you can come back to when you're ready to pull it out of the box, which I encourage you to do. Where was I going with that? The screen looks just like this, right? Now this is the online version. I have the online version and the downloaded version. The downloaded version gives you more tools to play with, like text tools and all kinds of stuff. But this is the online version. This is what it looks like. And on this toolbar right here, you're going to see a little box that says SVG. And if you click on that, a window pops up. And this is where we're going to go hunt down the little file wherever we saved it, right? And see, I have the Cricut SVG and I have the ScannCut, the ScannCut SNC, ScannCut. We're going to click on that and open that right up. When you do, it pops it all up in the upper corner, and I just like to select everything and drag it in the middle. That's just me. And now we're going to separate all the pieces and group them into colors because I know that I want to cut out the petals of my flower with one fabric and the very center of my flower with another. So let's just grab this middle hexy shape and bring it right down here. And now let's just play around with the arrangement because I want to try and get all of these petals in a small scrap piece of fabric that I found. So I need to sort of arrange them so that they all fit. So I'm just clicking on each one and grabbing it and moving it around. There's this little aqua little dot that you can grab and rotate your object really quickly, right? And then you can click and drag it however you want. I can even just delete these and select these up here and right click and hit copy and paste. We need 6 petals all together. So see how quick that was? Now I do have videos where I work much slower than I am today. So you can always go back and watch them. If I select all of them and I group them together, you'll notice right down here, it's going to tell me the exact measurement of this piece right here. So I know I need a piece of fabric that is, I like to make it a little bit bigger, so I'll always round up, right? 6 inches by 5 inches. And let me just check how big this fabric is before I move on. Oh, that's plenty big. Yep. So there are my flowers, and I know for my hexie, I need a piece of fabric that is roughly 2 inches by 2 inches. I hope that's big enough. I think it is. So once you've arranged all of your pieces however you want on the mat, we're going to go ahead and send this right over to the ScannCut. So I'm going to hit download. You could save it to your computer or a USB stick and manually plug in the USB stick to your machine if you want. If you have Wi-Fi, you can send it right over through the cloud. And so I clicked that and it says the ScannCut transfer is ready. So we're going to go ahead and close that, which means that my internet was strong enough to do that. So let's come on back here. And I know that I breezed right on through that, didn't I? Let's come back here. So many windows. There we go. Delia has bought a rotary blade. I hope it cuts good. Do you know I bought one and I haven't even taken it out of the box? Let me just tell you, I get stuck in my ways. And when I finally find something that works good for me, I tend to stick with it until it proves me otherwise, or I run into some problem or issue, and then I troubleshoot the problem and come up with a whole other method of doing it. And I'll do that until I run into an issue. The standard fabric blade, or the fabric blade that automatically measures the depth of the materials, that's what I'm using today. Let's put that back in there. So I have my heat and bond light. And before we even turn on the ScannCut, I'm going to go ahead and fuse this onto my fabric. Okay, so let's come back down to my desk for a minute. Oh, you know what I wanted to get was my little rotary cutter, which saves a lot of time. I guess we'll stick with this. So I need a piece of heat and bond that is 6 inches long. The rotary blade would be so much faster than this right here. And 5 inches wide. And I need a piece of heat and bond. I'm just using my mat down here in the corner, and you can't really see that because I'm zoomed in a little bit. I'm just cutting this heat and bond to those measurements that Canvas Workspace gave us when we selected on the items, right? All this goes right into my scrap bin. And I'm going to turn on my iron. Y'all, I got a little new iron. Because it takes up so much less space on my desk. And space right now is like, if you're on my desk, you are very important right now. Because space is limited. Okay, so I have the big piece is going to go on the back side of this fabric, like so. And the small piece is going to go on the fabric right here. I just want to trim this up so it don't stick to my pressing board. There we go. I really wish I would have brought over my rotary cutter. I'm just cutting some of these extra scraps off. Y'all, I was so organized during the quilt retreat. I took my big basket of scraps and separated them by color so that when I'm doing a project like this, I can just pull out one basket of all my browns or one basket of all my blues. And I feel very productive. Y'all see Dolly? She's sleeping. She was sick. She was sick. We had to take her to the vet. We think she probably drank out of a stale mud puddle in the yard. She was so sick, but we got her some medicines, and $800 later, she's all better. So just off camera, I'm right here. My pressing board's right there. I'm just going to fuse this heat and bond to the back side of these fabrics, okay? As soon as that warms up just a little bit. Bye, Steffi. Good night. We do not have medical insurance for Dolly. No, we don't. Does everyone have medical insurance for their pets? Maybe we should think about that. I don't know. All right, let's see if that's hot enough. And it is. I have to reach over. All right, heat and bond. That's going to go on the back side there. And that's going to go on the back side here. And we're going to let that cool off. The only thing I don't like about this little baby iron is it has a cord, which I like the cord because the iron stays consistently hot and it doesn't cool off. But the cord gets in your way, right? There's pros and cons. Wow, Susan, $6,000 for hernia surgery. I will look into it. All right, so here's our fabrics, right? And I just like to, and that's why it would be so much faster if I had my rotary cutter. I like to trim the extra bits off so that I know when I scan my mat and I move my pieces, that every piece of this fabric has some heat and bond light on the back side of it. Right? Now, over the years, I've shared videos here and there while I'm doing the scan and cut, and not much has changed, y'all. One thing has changed, but the major thing that has not changed is that I love my mat when it is hardly sticky at all. And that's just me, you know how we're all different. I like my mat to be hardly sticky. I'm gonna bring my mat over here. Now I do clean my mats occasionally. Oh, look at me dropping everything. I do clean my mat occasionally. I dropped my fabric. But you're gonna see little lint pieces stuck to it. But I don't know if you can hear this. It's got a little bit of tack to it, but it's not super sticky. Like I put my hand on it and lift it up and the mat's not coming up with my hand. Unlike when you get this mat brand new and you put your hand on it, you can lift it up and the mat's gonna come up with it, right? This is about where I love my mat to be, or even less sticky. This is the original mat that came with this machine. I do have some brand new mats that I've never taken out of the package yet, and I'm not sure when I will. They're nice to have as backups. But I will use this mat probably forever. Okay. I used to remove the paper off the back side of my fabric before I put it on here. I don't do that anymore. And I personally like cutting out my applique with the fabric side facing up, which means if you have SVGs, which we were talking to about a little bit before I hit the live button, if you have SVGs that have been mirror imaged, with these have not, the SVGs are not mirror imaged on this, then you need to flip them around if you're doing your fabric right side facing up. A lot of people will cut their pieces out with the fabric side on the mat, and in that case you need to mirror image your SVGs, right? I like cutting my fabric or my pieces out like this. And the other thing that has changed, like I used to tape all my fabrics down in place, right? But I have switched over to using a 505 spray, which works lovely. Okay, I don't restick my mats anymore. When I had my first scan and cut, I used to use Aleene's Tack It Over and Over Again on my mats and other stuff to restick my mat. And I just found it messy, and I found that I wasn't getting as clean cuts anymore, like a buildup on the mats, right? Just my experience. But I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 months and I love it. Okay, so that's what I'm doing today. What do I clean my mat with? Let me just show you because I have it on my cart. It's from the Dollar Tree. I like using Windex for one thing, or this Totally Awesome from the Dollar Tree. Okay, Heather said a scan and cut ASMR. That's so funny. So what I'm gonna do is I have a piece of poster board like so. See that? If you look at it closely, it's got little lint fuzzies all stuck to it. I just reuse this over and over again. And what I do is lay my fabric with the paper side facing up, right on my mats. And then I shake my can and I do squirt, squirt, squirt like that. Okay. Now, because Dolly's sitting right here, and I don't like to spray up here where all this stuff is, I usually will spray it off to the side, right? But Dolly's laying right there, and I don't want her breathing any of this stuff, right? So I'm gonna go off camera and I'm gonna step out the door for just a second since Dolly's in here, and I'm gonna do squirt, squirt, squirt on the back side of these fabrics. Is the ScannCut DX better than the 1 and 2? I would tell you, was that a ScannCut 2 that I had? The CM350 was my first ScannCut. And let me just tell you, had I not gotten this one, I'd still be using that machine today. The game changer for me is that this machine, which is the SDX 325, and the DX models, right, have the automatic blade depth adjusting feature to it, right? So with my CM350, I was always adjusting manually the depth of the blade. And sometimes I got it right, and sometimes I'd have to cut it again, right? This machine takes that guesswork out. All right, y'all, I'm gonna step off the screen for just a second. This is a brand new can. I haven't even opened it yet. And I'm gonna squirt this and I will be right back. If one does not have a ScannCut, is it more difficult to do raw edge applique? No. Like last week, I showed without the ScannCut from the very beginning, using the same heat and bond light that I'm using today. If you have, like I have essential trimmers, so tracing for me can be difficult some days, right? Or frustrating more than anything. If you have problems fussy cutting smaller shapes, or you do lots of words and you're cutting fabric applique letters, right? The ScannCut makes cutting accurately so fast and simple. It's not impossible to cut those things out by hand. It's just the machine is a tool that makes it accurate and quicker, right? You certainly can do it if you don't have the cutting machine. There we go, there's the lid. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go squirt this and I will be right back. Girl, don't you start growling at nobody. There she goes. Hey, that's your boyfriend. Hey, that's your boyfriend. I'm going to pause for just a second. I'm going to mute for just a second. Her boyfriend's outside. Her boyfriend was out there. She woke up out of a dead sleep. Did y'all see that? Right out of a dead sleep. All right, so the 505 spray is tacky, right? And I'm just gonna arrange my pieces just like that on the mat. What I like about this is there's no extra thickness on my mat, right? And that 505 spray just tacks it right in place. So now let's turn on this ScannCut machine. Okay, so here is our main screen. Our design is floating up in the cloud somewhere. And so I'm going to hit retrieve data. and it's in the cloud. So let's push on that. Do I need to flip the pieces for the scan and cut if I'm not using heat and bond? If you're putting your fabric right side up, like I am, like this, then your cutting file needs to be the right side, right? But if you are cutting with your fabric with the right side facing down, heat and bond or not, your image that you're cutting needs to be flipped and mirror imaged. All right, so I don't know if y'all can see that right there. I'll click on it, a little box will pop up. Those are all the 6 petals, right? And right down there is the little center of the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and just load my mat in. Load mat. I love this chair, but I'm still trying to get used to it, y'all. And what I'm going to do now is scan the mat, which is a wonderful feature of the Scan and Cut, right? Because it has a scanner built right into it. So it's going to take a picture of the mat, and then I can move these pieces right over top of the fabrics that I want to use for them. Elaine, yes. Actually, I was going to do Scan and Cut last week, but that morning I went to turn it on and there was an update, and I did that, and then it didn't hook up to the internet, so I scratched that whole idea. But I did do the update. All right, so you'll see on the screen that there's my fabrics, right? So now I can just click on this group and center that right in that fabric there, and I can click on the little hexie and center that right in that fabric, and I know everything is covered. And then I can hit OK. We're going to hit please select and cut. You can do a test cut if you want. What's going to happen is I'm going to hit start, and this blade is going to go to either this fabric or the black fabric down in the corner. And it's going to go da, 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 and take a little reading of how thick that material is. And it's going to automatically adjust the blade depth according to that material. Now, I have 2 different fabrics on this mat, right? What if this fabric is thinner than the other? Right? And it only reads one fabric and then cuts everything out according to that one, right? So I'll show you what I do here in just a second, but I'm going to hit start, and it's going to go through and it's cut out all my pieces. Yvonne, if I'm going to answer the question the same way. It depends on how you put the fabric on the mat, whether you have heat and bond light on it or not. If the printed side is facing up, you do not have to mirror image your SVG. If you put this fabric with no heat and bond light on it, just naked fabric, if you put it with the printed side facing the mat, and the unpretty side is facing up on the mat, then you need to mirror image the SVG, whether you have heat and bond light on it or not. Okay, so it just cut out all my pieces, right? So we're gonna say okay. And before I even unload this mat, guess what I'm gonna do? Because I have 2 different fabrics, they might have different thread counts, they might be thicker, one thinner. I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit please select, cut, and start. And I just cut it out a second time. And sometimes you'll hear, if you listen really closely, sometimes you'll hear like a couple threads that didn't get cut the first time. That second go through will cut those See how quiet that was? Every once in a while you'll hear a different noise. That was one little thread that didn't get cut. But it takes less than a minute to go through and send it through the second time to make sure all your cuts are nice and clean. And now we can unload the mat. See that? Oops. Let's put that in there. And let's come here and let me grab my little pokey tool. And we'll start right down here. There's the center for my flower. And you'll see, even with the 505 spray, it's a little bit tacky. But 505 spray loses its tackiness over time. And you'll see it's just a little tacky. Enough tacky to keep it on the mat though, right? And I'm just going to lift and pull up my little piece. It's got the heat and bond on the back. And as far as the paper, it just peels right off the mat. See that? There's my little flower petals. Pulling those off. And then I can just poke up the edges and pull up all the paper bits. See that? And I don't have to treat my mat with anything special. Ta-da! There we go. And there's my mat. Now let's bring this over so I don't have to reach all the way over there and do that. And let's bring in the base of my block. And I made some little registration marks to help me line the pieces up. Do I ever add SF 101? I don't use SF 101, but I do use Pelon P44F. And I have put that on the back side of fabric and cut out pieces with that. Yes. Which the 44F is probably thinner than the 101. But yes, I have. Do you always do a second cut or just depends? Usually I do a second cut if I have multiple different fabrics on the mat. If I'm just sending one piece of fabric on the mat, then no, I don't usually do the second cut. I just usually only do it if I have the two different fabrics, just to make sure that they're both cutting out nice and clean. So this little tiny baby iron works beautifully. It's super hot, but it has an auto shut off. So now we have to wait for it to warm up just a little bit. And I can go ahead and start putting all these petals in place. Like so. It's probably hot enough just to do that. It is. But see how quick that machine, even sending it through a second time, right? And how accurately it cut out the pieces. That for me, and because applique is like my favorite quilting technique of all the things, right? I've fallen in love with foundation paper piecing more than just traditional piecing. What else is there? English paper piece, raw edge applique. There's all different kinds of techniques when it comes to quilting stuff, right? But raw edge applique is my thing. It's what I love the most. And being able to accurately cut out all these pieces that quickly with the machine made it worth the while for me. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you have to justify, am I going to use it enough, right? But if you love applique and you struggle cutting applique, it might be worth it. But I use mine to do all kinds of stuff. I make stickers for our farm stand stuff, you know, little price stickers and things like that. I make stickers for our freeze-dried candy packs and all kinds of stuff, and I cut it all out with my machine. So I use mine for a lot of other things that are not applique related as well. All right. I'll tell you what. I am roasting up. Now, one of those fabrics I didn't put in the right place. Can you see the spacing is off a little bit? That's why I love a placement guide. It's very hard to do it at this stage. Do you know what I'm saying? So all of it's going to be off a little bit. Even with my little registration marks. That's okay. All right, we're going to fuse all those pieces in place. And today, y'all, we are going super simple at the sewing machine. And I am doing a straight edge just on the inside of these shapes with my regular open toe foot so y'all can see. No free motion quilting, no decorative stitch, just a straight stitch. And so I know that when I do this, many are going to ask, does that mean that if you wash this, the edges will fray? And yes. The heat and bond light on the back side of the fabric helps prevent a whole lot of fraying, but over time that breaks down, right? And the raw edge of this particular block will fray over time, but not as much as if you were to do this without it having heat and bond light on the back, right? Is that the heat and bond paper that you were removing after the fabric cut? Yes. Yep, it was just little bits of paper from the heat and bond light itself, right? That's what that is, the paper that's on the back side. That's a hot mess. Let's come on over to the sewing machine. Y'all don't judge my block too carefully, right? We're gonna come right over here. And I need to thread my machine with some light colored thread on the top. So give me a second to do that. I didn't mean to do that. I don't like pulling the thread backwards out of the machine. Threading, threading, threading. And threading the needle. And let me switch over to the open toe foot so we can see much better. And I'm going to lower my stitch length to a 2.0. This is just a straight standard stitch. My needle is right in the middle, and I lowered my stitch length to a 2.0. Wanda says, I want to do a satin stitch around mine, but I still have trouble getting it to look right. Should both the width and the length be on the smallest stitch size? Here's what I suggest, Wanda, because each project you do, the materials change, right? So you always want to pull over some extra fabric. Make yourself a little project with the same layers, right? Even if you're just stitching on the fabric itself, right? Bring over some of those scraps and play with your settings, because even if you switch out your thread, the satin stitch settings that you use today, if you change out that thread, or you change your needle size, or you change the fabrics, those settings that you use today might not work tomorrow. So you always need to make some changes or do some test sewing with your satin stitch before you ever start on your project. And I don't know, I've never sewn on your machine, so I don't know about the width and the length, but I would play around with those until you find one that gives you the look of a satin stitch that you're going for. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm getting used to my chair, Peggy. I'm getting used to it. It lays all the way back. Well, not all the way, but it lays back and it has a pull-out footrest. And look, no squeaky noises. All right, so straight stitch 2.0. And y'all, this could not be any more simple. You're gonna pick a place, and I'm just gonna start stitching, and I'm gonna jump from one to the next until all the pieces are stitched, right? And I personally, I don't like starting in a corner. That's just me. But I'm going real close to the very edge. I'm going to cut that little beginning thread. Now, I did not do a back stitch when I started, so I just passed where I started by 2 or 3 little stitches, right? And because I'm jumping from one petal to the next with the straight stitch, I am going to do a couple little back stitches each time I do that to lock these stitches in. Okay, I don't want to build up the thread in this place and make it look like that's where she started and stopped. Just a couple little stitches just to lock it, because I'm not using my thread cutter when I jump, which would tie a knot on the back. So I want to get these locked in before I jump, okay? And I just hit the thread cutter. I didn't mean to do that. I get in these habits, y'all. Ooh. We'll try again on this one. right, back stitch, needle up, and I'm jumping. And I went too far that time. Let's back it up just a little bit. Back stitch, needle up, and we're jumping. Back stitch, needle up, and we're jumping. All right, we have one more petal left. So that goes by pretty quickly, right? Do you ever find yourself talking to us when you're sewing totally alone? I talk to myself all the time, so sometimes when I'm live, I forget that I'm live and I'm just talking to myself. It's good that I remember that I'm live though, so that I don't say anything dumb. Do you know what I'm saying? Mary Jo said, doesn't your machine have the option for the foot to raise when you stop the sewing? Yes, but I turned it off. Do you want to know why? I love that feature, but it takes a couple seconds longer. And if I'm stopping often to turn each one of these, it adds like 2 seconds. And sometimes I'm impatient, right? So if you go back and you watch some of my foundation paper piecing videos before we started these tiny blocks, and you notice that my foot's raising up by itself, that's when it started getting on my nerves, because it just adds a couple seconds each time. You have to wait for it to raise by itself and lower by itself. And for me, I just find it much faster just to lift it up a little bit with my finger and keep on stitching. See that? That was fast, right? All right, back stitch, and all we have left to do is stitch the little center of this flower. I'm going to use the same light thread. Why not? right, and back stitch. Cut those threads. There's a knot on the back now. And there is all my pieces. Look how nice and clean that looks though, with just the straight edge or the straight line quilting and sewing down those applique pieces is so streamlined and just very clean looking, right? Let's come back to my desk. I'm gonna cut these little jump stitches. Oh, let's see how long it takes her to realize her father's home. Hi, just letting you know I'm still live. There she goes.
Hi, everybody.
Harlan just walked through the door. He just got home from work. Now, she loves her father. She's a daddy's girl. All right, I'm just going through and just cutting the little jump stitches, right? We had them on the front. Look how clean that is. And we have them on the back. I think it's almost time to turn on the second AC. It is only May. And you know what I find really frustrating is that we only had maybe 7 days where we had no heat on, even at night, before we had to turn the air conditioner on. That's infuriating to me. Look how nice and clean the quilting is on the back side of this block. Isn't that pretty? So let's just do a little comparison. Where's my block from last week? Last week I did a little satin or a zigzag stitch, which that's pretty too, right? It makes a little border around the applique pieces. And that is lovely. And that's what the quilting looked like on the back. So there's the difference, right? And let me just tell you, this is way faster, right? But I'm gonna put all 4 May blocks that we're doing, these 2 plus the next upcoming 2 weeks, I'm gonna connect them together like this with a little zigzag stitch or something, and make them into a little thin wall quilt. And I was thinking, put the little hangers on the top block, whichever one I decide, so that you can put a wooden spoon through there and use that as your hanger. Wouldn't that be so dang cute? But I do know this, in each 4 blocks, I'm going to use Harlan's shirt in some way or another, so that they all tie in together somehow. Do you know what I'm saying? Won't that be really cool? And so for the background, y'all know last week I cut a section of the arm of the shirt off. For this, I cut to the seam of where the arm attaches to the shirt. And I still have a great big hunk of fabric from that cut off alone. So that one shirt is gonna go so far. It really is. But there's my 2 Mayflowers so far. Peggy said I had to turn my air on today too. Okay, so Peggy has these wind chimes, right? And Peggy was in Peggy was in our quilt retreat, and we heard wind chimes for 24 hours, or while Peggy was there. I'm not complaining, I love them, but it reminded me I got wind chimes for Christmas and I had never put them up. And the top of them is a little metal rooster, which is so dang cute. But on the back side of my studio, I have a little porch, a screened-in porch off the back side of my studio here. I said that'll be the perfect place to hang up these rooster wind chimes. And I opened up the door and there was a breeze coming through and I was like, this will be perfect. I get to hear the wind chimes all day today. And let me just tell you, I hung those wind chimes up and I opened up that sliding door and this sliding door. And not one breeze happened for the rest of the day. I have not heard those wind chimes not once since 5 minutes after hanging them up. Not one time. I'm going to have to move them somewhere else. But usually that porch there is breezy. Peggy says they started to drive her nuts. I love some wind chimes. Now maybe on an extremely windy day where it's just a constant, I'll probably take them down. Do you know what I'm saying? But I like a little ding 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 here every once in a while. But I have not heard not ding ding, not one time since I hung them up. All right, y'all, here's my 2 Mayflowers. Right, and we used Canvas Workspace today. We prepared our applique fabric today. We used the ScannCut to cut out our applique. We fused it in place and we stitched it down, and we're just 7 minutes over an hour, even with all my chit-chatting. Not bad, right? No ding ding at all. Christine gave her first block away as a hostess gift. That's awesome. That is so awesome. And let me just tell you, these blocks are perfect, right? There's all different kinds of uses you could use for a block that's finished at this size, right? This finishes at 7 inches. 7 inches by 7 inches. It could be a plant holder. It could be a mug rug. It could be, you could double up the batting. That's what I like to do, and make it a little trivet for the kitchen, right? Set a little casserole on it, whatnot. What else could you do with it? It's a little baby mini quilt, right? Davey says, I wonder what your wall hanging would look like with buttons and hair ties to connect them. I think that would be cute. I do. Especially if you use the buttons from the shirt, right? I'll tell you, it is mighty warm in here. And it's kind of getting overcast real quick, which tells me that there might be a thunderstorm on the way. I haven't watched the weather yet, but that's what it looks like outside. Yes, come back on the replay. Come on back on the replay. And that's awesome that that's available, right? In case you do have a busy day and you miss a good portion of the live. So what are y'all's plans for the weekend? Tomorrow I'm baking bread first thing in the morning because the women's club has the booth in town again for the Mayfair. So if you live in my area within a driving distance, you might want to come out to Matthews because the whole town is going to be full of all kinds of stuff. Crafts, different vendors, baked goods, yeah, all kinds of stuff. And so I'm volunteering with the women's club tomorrow afternoon. I'll be making bread in the morning. And the last time I did the farmer's market at the women's club, I brought like 4 dozen of eggs, and they didn't even last like half an hour. They sold really fast. So I'll probably bring some eggs with me too. Wanda's hopefully finishing up her commissioned quilts It feels so good to get them done, doesn't it, Wanda? I know you'll be glad to wrap. I mean, it's so much fun doing it, but when you're done, you're like, whew, okay, now what am I gonna do? Chrissy, you're working on Show Me the Way Compass Quilt. Yay! And I saw that you signed up for the Embroidery Basic class. I'm super stoked to hang out with you, show you all the things. Peg is supposed to get rain for the next 4 days. I will tell you, our tomato plants need some rain. I shared a little walkthrough video just as an update on my Facebook page yesterday. Did you happen to see our puny little tomato plants? They need some rain. Elaine says, if I wasn't here in the UK, I would be there. I love markets. I love a good market too. Peggy, yes. I posted it today. I haven't I didn't make any post on Facebook yet because I was running out of time. I got a video phone call. Y'all remember Connie? We haven't seen much of Connie. Guess who I talked to today? Miss Lovely, beautiful Connie B. Craft. She's been MIA for a good little bit, and guess who I got to video chat with today? It was so good to see her. And so I talked with her, and then I did my books, which was, you know, accounting numbers. What else did I do today? Oh, I put this in the frame. Anyway, I ended up running out of time, so I didn't make any post on Facebook about the classes, but I did get those listed today. So there is a basics, like as basic as I can make it, like introduction class to embroidery. Now, on the screen, I'll be showing Stitch Artist number 2, but most of these tools would be in Stitch Artist number 1. And even if you just have Enthusiast and none of the Stitch Artist models, this introduction will give you the basic, like, what is the objects window? What is all that? What is the properties window? What does that do, right? What is this toolbar? What's on that toolbar? It's just a good deep dive into the software as a whole, how to import a working file. If you have Stitch Artist 1, how to open up a clip art and start drawing on it, right? So it's just a good deep dive introduction into embroidery. And then the second class I'm doing, on which day? Wednesday. And make sure you check the times if you're gonna do the class so that you know if the time isn't good for you. The second class, I'm gonna digitize the little ghost quilt label. Let me just tell you, when I showed videos of stitching that little ghost quilt label out, I had so many orders for ghost quilt labels that the next several days, that's all I was doing, which was so much fun. But I'm going to show you how you can digitize your own. And then you not only learn how to make the ghost quilt label, right? But you can take those same steps and apply it to any clip art that you find or that you have and make your own shapes, quilt labels, right? What is a good scan and cut to start with? I'm going to just... Here's the thing. I don't work for Brother. They don't pay me nothing. Sometimes I think, you know, these companies, these brands, they should pay me something, but they don't. Okay? Brother doesn't pay me anything. So I feel like I can tell you, I could be so upfront with you. I have the ScannCut SDX 325. There's a lot on this machine that I won't ever use, right? if you're not into Disney stuff, don't pay extra to get a machine that has Disney designs built into it. All of the scan and cut, you know what? Let's just pull it up on the web pages. I would get one that has the automatic depth feature on it. Let's just pull it up. Google, give me a second. I'm gonna be looking at the screen but not making any noise because I'm trying to focus. Brother scan and cut. All right, so the SDX 85, the SDX 125, the SDX 225. Now, some of them have, and here's what the differences are, right? I'm going to try to pull this up on the screen. Some of them have a certain number of preloaded shapes in them, right? That others don't. If that's important to you and you want to pay extra to get the extra shapes, right? Where are all those cutting machines? Some of them have Disney machines. Some of them... Why is it not pulling up the machines? Hold on a second, y'all. The ScannCut DX. Well, I don't know why I can't navigate the Brother website. Hold on a second. I'll tell you why, because I'm streaming live, that's why. So, you know what we're gonna do? Scan and cut. And this is good. This gives you a good idea of pricing. Let me come back here. And display screen, start. This is the old Amazon, y'all. And so if you scroll down, you see the SDX 125E is $399.98, right? But if you go over to the SDX 85C, that's $274. And then you have the 230 DI has the Disney cutting shapes in it, right? And then you have the one that I have. That's actually come down since I bought it. Right? Let's scroll down. Is that the only ones they have on here? It might be, but let's just click on each one real quick and just see what they are. So let's click on this SDX85C. I don't know what the C stands for. 251 included shapes and patterns, right? And you get your choice of colors. Your screen, see that screen on the inside? That one might be smaller than on some of the other machines that cost a little bit more. So if your eyesight is a problem, then that might be a determining factor for you, right? The smaller screen might be harder for you to see after you've scanned your mat and you're moving your pieces, right? That might be important. So I would click on each one. They also might offer different cutting depths, right? If you're cutting cork or foam and things like that, pay attention to the thickness that the machine will cut because it might be, and I haven't studied them in a long time, y'all, so I'm just pulling things out of my hind parts. But if I were thinking about it, I would pay attention to how thick of a material can it cut up to, right? That might be important for you. There might also be a resolution difference in the scanner. And so the scanner might scan at a higher resolution on some machines than it does the others, right? So let's click on, that was that one. Let's click on this one. So this is the SDX 125E, and you'll see this one has 682 included shapes or patterns, right? And I also want you to see the screen on that one. It's bigger and easier to see. Yeah, so and it also, the price sometimes includes what all does it come with, right? It might be a bundle, but like I have said from the very beginning, you might also want to check like your local Facebook marketplace, because people are all the time upgrading to a newer machine and they're selling their perfectly good working one to help offset the cost of that, right? So it might be a great way to get into a machine, buying it like that. Is the basics class sold out already? There, let me check that for you. That would be crazy. Hold on one second. Nope, there's 9 of them still available. It's in there. I will post links. I was gonna say 10 slots sold out since we started the live. That's crazy. Yeah, both classes are still available, and I'll post links on my business Facebook page for you to just click on it real easy and find it, right? Yeah, I was gonna say, holy moly, I'm in the wrong line of work. I should just go into teaching small groups. Now, if you have a sew-and vac near you, like we have Tidewater Sew-and Vac in our area, they're brother dealers, and that's where I've bought this last machine. They were set up at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival, and I bought it directly from Tidewater Sew-and Vac, right? Check your sew-and vacs locally in your area. A lot of them are brother dealers, and you might find a ScannCut through them. You also have some quilting fabric shops that might carry them. And there's also a brother website that you can buy them on. And then I showed you Amazon as some options. There were only, what, like 4 different machines on there. But if the budget's important to you, consider buying locally from someone who's selling theirs, right? And actually, so many people get these machines with good intentions that they're going to use them, and then they never do, because it can be intimidating to plug it up and to send something through it, right? It can be. And so they decide just to sell them, and the machine's perfectly working order, right? Always test a machine before you walk away with it, right? But you can find some really great machines that way. All right, y'all, I am off to go see how Harlan's day was, and I think they're out at the garden, so I bet you he's munching. We had a couple of strawberries that were probably just perfect today. Like, we could have picked them yesterday, but we were like, I bet you tomorrow they'll be perfect. I bet you he's already eaten one of them. Here's my thing about strawberries, y'all. Our strawberries are loaded. But here's what's happening. Like 2 or 3 will be ripe today. And 2 will be ripe tomorrow, just ripe for picking. And then it'll be a day or so. And then another one, random one, will be ripe. How do you make strawberry jam that way? Like they're not all going to be ripe at the same time. How do you do that? But here's an update before we leave. I think we have like 12 cherries on our tree. We have plums on both our pears on both our pear trees. We have 1 peach. And our Concord grapes, it's going to be a bumper year for those. There's millions of little baby grapes out there. No blackberries on our bushes. That's sad. What about next week's flower? Please show us. Well, I can pull that up real quick, but I'm not sure which one we're doing. So we've done the bottom 2 so far. So the top 2 we haven't done yet. And I'm not sure it'll be one of those 2. I'm not sure which one yet. One of those 2. Can you refrigerate or freeze them? Maybe I'll put them in the freezer. Yes. Peggy's getting a lemon tree. I'd like to have a lemon tree. So that's next week. One of those 2 flowers. And I'll be using Harlan's shirt in some capacity, some way, so it'll tie in with these. And I'll probably come and have my applique cut, but no block already made. Because that is a struggle for me. Getting it lined up like that. So we'll go back and I'll sew the whole block together with you next week. All right, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you for sure next Friday. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Have fun creating and doing all your fun stuff. Share pictures on the Creative Crew. I want to see your garden. I want to see your projects, your quilts, all that stuff. Bye, everybody.
In the quiet of the evening light, with needles dancing, stitching him tight, each patch a story, every thread unbinding love and fabric where we belong. Every stitch a whispered prayer,